Bismillah. This audio is to go over Resource 5.1 with you after you've done your best to complete it and check your answers using the answer key. So Resource 5.1 in our Ajrumiyyah workbooks, as found on page number 108, has the subtitle As'ilatu Muraja'a min ad-Dars al-Khamis, review questions from the fifth lesson. So this resource is for after you have studied and insha'Allah ta'ala mastered, or at least become very familiar with, lesson number 5 of our series of classes on this Ajrumiyyah primer. So the first question, السؤال الأول الفعل يعرف ب. What is a fi'l known by? What are the signs of a fi'l? A. الرفع والنصب. B. قد وسوف. C. التنوين وحروف الخفض. Or D. سين الساكنة. And so you should have chosen B. قد وسوف, because those are two of the 4 signs of a fi'l, that قد comes before it and سوف comes before it. As for الرفع and النصب, the word being مرفوع or mansub, then that's not something specific to a fi'l, because an ism could also be marfu' or mansub. As for answer choice C, at-tanween, then you remember that is a sign of an ism, not a fi'l. وَحُرُوفِ الْخَفْضِ كَذَلِكَ. Also you know that is a sign of an ism, not a fi'l. And as for D, sin as-sakina, a sin with a sukun on it, that's more or less a nonsensical answer. السؤال الثاني, the second question, كم عدد علامات الأفعال المذكورة في المقدمة الآجرومية? How many are the signs of verbs that have been mentioned in the Ajrumiyyah primer? A. ثلاثة. B. خمسة. C. واحدة فقط. Or D. أربعة. And the correct answer is, of course, D. أربعة. Remember, the text of Al-Ajrumiyyah is وَالْفِعْلُ يُعْرَفُ بِقَدْ. That's 1. وَالسِّينِ. That's 2. وَسَوْفَ. That's 3. وَتَاءِ التَّأْنِيثِ السَّاكِنَةِ. That's 4. السؤال الثالث المقصود بتاء التأنيث الساكنة. What is the meaning of this language item called a ta, a ta'nith, a sakina? The ta of ta'nith, the ta of femininity that is sakina. So is it A, ta'un fi akhir al-kalima? It's at the end of a word. So far that sounds good. Maftuhatun, and it's written out. Maftuhatu shakal, written out. Ghayru marbuta, not the ta marbuta that's written in that shape. Sakinatun ghayru mutaharrika, with a sukun on it without any other haraka, like fatha, dhamma, or kasra, just a sukun. That sounds really good. A sounds like a perfect answer. B, ta'un fi akhir al-kalima. Okay, it's at the end of a word. Madmumatun, marfu'atun, tadullu ala ta'nith. It has a dhamma on it. No, not at all. It has to have a sukun. It's sakina. Marfu'a, I don't know what's meant by a letter that's marfu'a. Tadullu ala ta'nith, that sounds good. Something that indicates femininity. So this answer is partially correct, but we're going to call it incorrect because it's not madmuma at all. It doesn't have a dhamma on it. C, مثل التاء في قوله تعالى وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا. And so in class we mentioned this as an example of a ta maftuhatu shakal. It's open, and it's fi akhir al-kalima. It's at the end of a word. However, it is not sakina. This is ta at-ta'nith as-sakina. So this ta is maksura. It actually has a kasra on it. So maksura is not sakina. And then D, ta'un fi wasat al-kalima, a ta in the middle of a word. So no, coming in the door wrong. We're looking for a ta fi akhir al-kalima, at the end of a word. ساكنة غير متحركة. That part is right. وهي من علامات الأسماء. And it's from the signs of nouns? No, not at all. It's from the signs of verbs. So the only correct answer here, which is correct with all of its parts, is A. You should have chosen A. السؤال الرابع, the fourth question. بارك الله فيكم. مثال السين من علامات الأفعال. An example of the sin, which is from the signs of verbs. And you have four choices here. A. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. You have a sin in there as part of the word sofa. That's not correct because we're looking for a sin, not the word sofa. That's another sign of a verb. B. قد أفلح من زكاها. There is no sin at all in that verse. C. وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى. And again we have sofa, just preceded by a waw and a lam. وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى. That's not the scene we're looking for. That's sofa. So the correct answer must be the last one then. ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. Yes, there it is. The verb is يَعْلَمُونَ with the scene in front of it. سَيَعْلَمُونَ. That's the scene which is from the signs of a فعل. السؤال الخامس. قال تعالى قد علم كل أناس مشربهم. From Surah Al-Baqarah, the 60th verse. استخرج من الآية فعلا وبين علامته. Locate a verb in the verse and clarify what its sign of being a verb is. Your answer choices are A. أناس فعل. That أناس is a فعل. والعلامة السين. The sign of that word being a verb would be the sin. So, to be clear, أناس has a tanween on the sin. That means it's a noun. So it's absolutely not a fi'l. And as for its sign being a verb is a sin, then the sin we're looking for is in the beginning of a verb, not the last letter anyway. B. مشربهم فعل. The claim is here, مشربهم is a fi'l, and the sign is والعلامة الشين الساكنة. The sheen with a sukun on it. So, مشربهم is actually a noun. You may not know that just yet. But الشين الساكنة is not any sign of a fi'l anyway. C. علم فعل. The word علم is a fi'l. والعلامة قد. And the sign of it being a fi'l is the word قد before it. And this is your correct answer. علم is indeed a fi'l. And the sign of it being a fi'l is the word qad coming before it. And D is another attempt to make a noun seem like a fi'l. أناس fi'l والعلامة الخفض. Well, it does have the sign of khafd, but that means it's an ism, not a fi'l. So the correct answer here obviously is C. Now these answer choices are found in your answer key. On page number 218, you see there it says Resource 5.1, 1B, 2D, 3A, 4D, 5C, and then you have some answers there for 6 written out for you. We're going over those answers here in this audio just to provide you with some more insight and some more clarity on why the wrong answers are wrong. And maybe you had some difficulty reading the questions properly. So these audios where we go over the answers that are already found in the answer key are to provide further assistance to you in understanding the questions and the answers. So now let's look at the sixth and final question. السؤال السادس, the sixth question. قال تعالى, Allah the Most High says, قال سوف أستغفر لكم ربي إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. That's the 98th verse of Surah Yusuf. استخرج من الآية اسما وفعلا وبين علامة كل منهما كما في المثال. Extract or locate in the verse a noun and a verb and explain or clarify what the sign of that word being a noun or a verb is, as is done in the example. So the first line is the example. Ismun, what's the example of an ism? The answer given to you is الغفور وعلامته الألف واللام في أوله. That's the alif lam التعريف in the beginning of the ism. So you now extract a fi'l and you write it there, and then you explain what is the alama, what is the sign of it being a fi'l. The only fi'l in this short passage is astaghfiru, and the sign of it being a fi'l is sawfa, the word sawfa that comes right before it. And then an ism and its alama. And the most obvious choice for you to select is the other ism right after al-Ghafur, ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim, with the same reason as al-Ghafur being chosen, with the alif lam fi awalihi, al-alifu wal-lamu fi awalihi. Barakallahu fikum. I hope you did well, and I hope that these audios, these walkthroughs are helpful to you. والله أعلم وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد.